Hey guys, so I'm going to do a little bit of a tabletop demo right here with these specific type of carabiners. Let me know if you like this format. I may do it with some other stuff in the future, but basically the camera is going to be facing down at the table so that way you can see my hands working with these things. In this video, I want to talk about specifically these belay style carabiners. I have a few options on the table right here. And I'm going to talk about what I look for in these carabiners for a specific application versus what most people would use them for. Okay, so I got an array of carabiners on the table right here. All of these are what you might call belay specific carabiners because that's kind of what they are. They look like, you know, figure 8 type devices like this. And so they have the round bar stock right here for whatever belay device you want to clip in. And then also this keeper captured eye type thing. And I have different models or different versions of them like this versus this, you know. And I'm going to talk about the ones that I like. I actually kind of like all of these, but I like them in specific applications and in certain settings, especially in terms of guiding. First, let's talk about kind of that triple action versus double action. All of these are auto, oh wait, not this one, but all of these are auto locking carabiners. And then I have one manual lock, or what you might call single action. Double action could be, this could be an example of a double action right here because you have to push this little thing down and then you can open up the carabiner. Here's the exact same sort of slide lock type thing. And then a triple action carabiner, I would say, are these three right here. This one's like the most common one. You push up, twist, and open, just like that, and it auto locks. This one's a bit of a different triple action thing, a magnetron, you know, so I have to press this side, that side, and open to make 3 actions. And then this one, some people have been arguing is not triple action. I'd say it is. Well, it's a double action carabiner that is as secure as a triple action because you have this outer gate that opens and then an inner gate that opens the opposite way, and then you can clip whatever you have in here. Okay, so the point of this video isn't to talk about how, like, which one I prefer for using as a belay carabiner with my belay device, which I would use any of these in that application. This is more about a connection of your harness to the rope in as secure as it gets. So the example would be if you were in Glacier travel mode and you wanted to clip into a knot on the rope, which carabiner I would use. And the whole reason why I have a bunch of these is because every year I've sort of shifted between like trying out this one versus that one. So I've had a lot of time to kind of decide what I like and what I want to have as my dedicated carabiner to lock into the rope. Another thing I think about is in terms of guiding, we will often like short roping or short pitching or going from Glacier mode into short roping mode, you know, like kind of a technical transition. Guides have started putting carabiners like these on their harnesses, and you keep it attached to your belay loop throughout the entire time you're using the harness, really. By virtue of it being one carabiner that's directional and triple action, you can use one carabiner on the Glacier. I actually have a completely separate video that talks about the reason why we can use this carabiner as our only attachment to the rope, and it's like 10 minutes long, so you can go back. I'll put it in the comments section below, a link to it, so that way you can go back and watch that video. And it sort of explains the reason why we have these directional triple actions and we don't have to do 2 carabiners opposite and opposed. So going back, if I'm doing something like a non-technical Glacier route, I can take one of these carabiners and I can clip my knot to that, and it's clipped to my harness. It's directional, so I would have it in my harness here, and then the knot would be here. And I can have the rope in that carabiner all day, all the way to the summit and all the way back to camp. And I know that it's going to stay where it's at. And that can work for guiding as well as if you are just climbing with your friends. But if I'm doing something like the Fisher Chimneys on Shuckson, where I'm going to be using that carabiner on my belay loop, not only for glacier mode, but also for like rolling Munter hitches into it and belaying off of a stance or something like that, I've gravitated towards different carabiners. So first things I want to talk about is kind of carabiners that don't fit the model of either of those situations. An example of that would be a carabiner like this, which I don't really like too much. One is it's not triple action, it's a double action, and it's actually really easy for this thing to come open. I've definitely seen this get pinched against a rock, or it could get pinched against ice just right that it pops open, and then you don't have a carabiner anymore. Another thing is the wire that keeps this carabiner where it's at. It orients upwards, just like that. So if I were to clip this into a harness, if it got pushed back on my belay loop, it could actually come undone, and then all of a sudden I have like a cross-loaded carabiner or something like that. So I personally try to avoid these carabiners that have the opening gate that opens upwards like that. I much more prefer a carabiner like this one, which has the gate opening downwards. So that way, if I clip this into the rope and actually forget to lock the keeper loop in place on my harness, I may get lucky and this thing could snap into place. As well as if the carabiner gets pushed back against my belay loop, it's not going to open up. So that's one factor that I want in my belay loop carabiners, is that the gate should be going downwards. Here's another example. Gate goes down, so that way the belay loop will slide in and it won't slide out. This one's a bit of a different style because the gate, the capture part is part of the gate, but that means when you open it up, your belay loop's probably going to slip in. So that one works. So this carabiner, while I will use it as a belay carabiner for like sport climbing or something like that, I'm not going to use this on a glacier. So, and then the idea with that, I mean, like you could argue that it's not that great as a belay carabiner, but if you're using this just in a sport climb that only lasts like a few minutes anyway, and then you take it off, then it's totally fine. But if we're really depending on this carabiner to stay oriented on our harness all day, that's when I want something that is built a bit more foolproof. Another carabiner that doesn't quite fit the mold is something like this. This is just your standard black diamond belay carabiner. And while this is great for sport belaying, it's not quite set up perfectly for glacier travel, and that's because it is not a triple action. So you have to manually lock it. It has the captured eye, so that way you're not worried about it getting cross-loaded. But the fact that you have to manually lock it kind of brings it out of the running. We want something that actually has an auto-locking type feature, because these gates can rattle open throughout the day. Now, I may still use this in certain circumstances, perhaps as a guide, and I know I'm going to be opening up this carabiner a whole lot to roll a bunch of Munter hitches into it or something while short roping. Or I could even give this to my clients if the route involves a lot of in and out of the rope. It's not uncommon for us to take the rope off for sections of walking and then clip the rope to our clients to short rope them through a small section. So if you live in a specific area where it's a lot of in and out of the rope, or what some people call the rapid fire, you could get a few of these carabiners, clip them onto clients' harnesses and clip them in, lock them up, belay them through a small short roping section, and then have them unlock and take them out. It can be a lot easier for clients to work a carabiner like this, obviously, versus something like this Gravel one. This still has its place, but it's not something that we're going to want to use for 6 or 8 hours on a glacier where we're locking it once and then unlocking it at camp. This carabiner is another example of kind of like a midway one. I like how the gate opens downwards. That's really nice. The locking mechanism this is that same Idelrid slide lock right here. It's designed pretty cool because the metal or rubber thing right here kind of opens up that gate along with it. But that slide lock is just a little bit too unreliable. I would kind of be nervous about falling into a crevasse with this. Like, again, if you wanted to use it as a guide, it could be nice to have this on your harness, and then you can roll some stuff into it. But I personally I'm not good enough with this little flick system. I'm just not as practiced with it, but I could definitely see a point for this as a guide, or in the guide position. You could have this more fancy carabiner because you're doing a lot more work with it. Moving on to carabiners that I actually kind of use, or I actually use for these sort of circumstances. I used this one for quite a while. This is the Black Diamond Rock Lock, I think, Magnetron. They don't make this anymore. If you have one of these, it's more than steady enough. It's triple action locker here. It has the captured eye like so. A lot of guides like using this design, and it's great if you can get your hands on one. I personally don't like opening up the whole magnetron feature to do something like roll a clove hitch into while it's on my harness. That's something that's a bit more annoying for me, especially if I'm wearing gloves, which is pretty common. So this is like, I used it for a while, and maybe every now and again I'll go back to using it, but I've sort of found, or I've been experimenting with other carabiners to find one that I like a lot more. And the second carabiner in this configuration was the Gravel. This one I work with the least. This is their Clip Cedra S, and so the S is for small. They do make a bigger version, so if you like the bigger version more, then more power to you, use that one. The small one, it has everything I want. You know, the gate clips down, and then this whole function of the twin gates gives it enough security for a triple action locker, and it's auto lock too. I think I like using this carabiner for something like non-technical mountaineering, because if you're on something like Mount Baker doing the eastern route, you wake up in the morning and then you clip yourself into the rope. It's one open, throw the rope in and let it close, and then you leave this carabiner on your harness connected to the rope all the way to the summit and all the way back to camp, you know, like for anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. And maybe you unclip from the rope at breaks or on the summit, you know, but for long periods of time, you're not touching this thing. It's just on your harness and you're walking uphill. So if I'm not using the carabiner all that much, I could bring this one out and use that as my attachment to the rope. And it weighs less than this black carabiner or this one. So it helps save me a little bit of weight. The only thing I don't really like using this for is rolling Munter hitches can be kind of hard with this whole system. So that's kind of the main thing I don't like about it. Other people are really good at it. Maybe I just need to practice a little bit more, but I still haven't quite gotten good with rolling the Munter hitch into this carabiner for belaying off my harness or something like that. So it's a good one. I may try it out again in the future. I love how small it is. I love it how these carabiners have round stocks on top too. So that way when I'm doing a technical route, I could take this off and use it as my belay carabiner for belay from above. This one also has that nice round stock. The Black Diamond one actually doesn't really have a round stock at all. This one does. But that is one extra feature if I can get with these carabiners is a round stock, so I can use it in belay from above and I could rappel with it if I wanted to. Other than that, that's kind of where I would use this specific carabiner, is just non-technical routes, long walks, and not a whole lot of open and closing of the gate. Now, my new favorite carabiner this year, I've been using this all year, and this kind of checks all the boxes for me. This is the DMM Rhino, I believe. If I'm wrong about that name, I'll write it in the bottom of the screen here. So this is a triple action locker, so that box is checked. This wire right here goes down, so that box is checked. And I also get a round stock feature up top right here for belay from above, which isn't a requirement, but that is really nice. And so this is my new favorite, like, belay loop locking carabiner. I can operate that triple action really well and really fast. I can roll Munter hitches super easy into this thing. And the only real penalty is the weight. I would say that this carabiner weighs more than the Black Diamond. It for sure weighs more than the Clip Cedra right there. It weighs more than this one. It's probably the heaviest carabiner I really have on this table. That is the big argument, right? Is everyone wants things to be super lightweight and nice, but is it really worth it to have something that's super lightweight but harder to use? Like, this carabiner gets opened and closed a whole lot throughout the course of a technical guided climb that I do. And so I want something that's easy to work with. It gives me all the features that I want, and it can ultimately help me work better. So if I'm super focused on saving weight and go for the most ultralight things, that could inhibit my ability to work properly and inhibit my ability to guide effectively. And so sometimes you just have to pay the weight penalty and go with a more heavy device, but it gives you enough advantage in the mountains. That's the trade-off, right? The heavier it is, the easier it is to use and higher advantages, or you go with a lighter one and live with the pain every time you have to open up that carabiner. Overall, I'm always sort of changing my opinions on something, but right now this DMM Rhino is kind of giving me everything I want. And I really like the feeling of it. The action's really smooth. And so this is kind of my new belay loop carabiner. So I hope that gives you guys some idea of what I'm going for with these specific types of carabiners. Again, if I was just using them to belay, like a sport climb, I would use any one of these just because I'm not caring as much about anything other than it staying oriented on my belay loop by virtue of this little twig thing right here. But if I'm going to use it for guiding in the alpine setting and I'm going to be rolling Munter hitches into it and using it, belaying here, belaying there, attaching different devices in and out of the gate and opening and closing that carabiner a whole lot, I'm going to look for something with a bit more specific features and something that allows me to do that job the best. So that's kind of why I would recommend any of these three lockers. I mean, I know they don't make this anymore, but if you were to ask me any sort of carabiner to use as that belay loop locker, these are kind of the ones that I would recommend. And I would stay away more from these style of carabiners right here. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my little tabletop shot. If you like videos with this tabletop setting, I would like to do more of them and talk more about stuff that's easily illustrated with my hands. But let me know if you guys liked that sort of video setup for me. And please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
I'm not sure how long that's been there for, but